Bonsoir. Le Cameroun, tout comme le monde entier, fait face à une pandémie dont les tentacules continuent malicieusement à s'étendre, sémant deuil et désolation, et même laissant voir en perspective des dégâts économiques de grande envergure. Près de 177 pays et territoires dans le monde sont touchés par la maladie à coronavirus, avec un peu plus de 34 000 morts sur le carreau. Au Cameroun, c'est depuis ce 1er avril en matinée tout au moins, on compte 284 cas confirmés. Ceci selon les chiffres officiels. Au-delà des pertes en vie humaine, c'est l'économie qui est frappée de plein fouet. Les importations prennent un coup, par ricochet les douanes, les entreprises qui ferment sans être sûres de rouvrir, le fixe est donc affecté, des employés envoyés en chômage technique et la liste est loin d'être exhaustive. Les économistes sont formels, cette pandémie ne laissera indifférente aucune économie. Comment les entreprises commerciales industrielles du Cameroun vont-elles faire face à la situation? La question, je vais la poser à l'invité de ce soir. Homme d'affaires, l'immobilier, la banque, l'industrie agricole n'ont pas de secret pour lui. Multicasquette, il est vice-président de la Chambre de commerce des industries, des mines et de l'artisanat, chairman de la United Bank of Africa, consul honoraire de Turquie. Il est depuis peu le chef suprême des Bafor, c'est un peuple établi dans le département de la Mémé, région du Sud-Ouest. Sa Majesté Victor Ekoko MUKETE est assis ce soir dans le fauteuil rouge. Majesté, bonsoir et merci d'avoir accepté notre invitation.
Thank you very much, and I must make a correction. I'm Leonard Ekoko MUKETE. Victor is my father, so that correction, it's correct. Thank you.
Alors, je ne l'ai peut-être pas mentionné tout à l'heure. Je précise que vous avez été le directeur général de Spectrum Télévision. Bienvenue chez vous.
Thank you. Well, again, another correction. I was the general manager of the Spectrum Group that owns Spectrum Television. So, so it's more on the holding company.
Voilà.
Yes, thank you.
Bref, bienvenue chez vous.
Thank you.
Bon, on va mettre le pied tout de suite dans le plat. Un fonds de solidarité vient d'être créé. Il a déjà d'ailleurs été fourni d'1 milliard de francs CFA. Cela est suffisant selon vous?
No, I think it's just a start. Usually when a fund is created, it's just seed money that's put there. And I think what the head of state did was put the seed money of $1 billion. It just sets the stage rolling, so others will now start contributing, private sector, well-wishers and so on. So it's just a start.
Alors, c'est un début, certes. On peut dire que la United Bank a eu une avance sur le fonds, puisque avant que le fonds ne soit créé, vous avez donné 150 millions de francs au gouvernement camerounais dans cette lutte. Alors, selon vous, est-ce que 150 millions, lorsqu'on connaît le mastodonte qu'est la United Bank, est-ce que c'est pas un peu... j'allais dire petit, c'est vrai que quand on donne ces... Est-ce que c'est pas un peu léger par rapport à la situation que vit le Cameroun?
Well, I think we should look at it as nothing is enough. I mean, the amount of resources required are enormous. What we did was just a gesture of goodwill, and you should look at it also that United Bank for Africa is a Pan-African bank. And we're looking at 20 countries, so we are giving support across Africa to 20 countries, and the package in total was $14.2 million, so it's significantly more than what actually came to Cameroon. I think really what we don't stop there. That was support to government and also to encourage other companies and those in the private sector to look at their social corporate responsibility and do something. So it really was again a push, and I think there are other things we do on the sideline in order to support the community.
Maintenant, j'ai envie de savoir, le geste de votre structure, est-ce que on met ça dans la philanthropie ou alors c'est une stratégie marketing?
No, it's philanthropy. If we wanted to do marketing, we would go on and do it. But definitely, I think being a good corporate citizen inherently does operate also in the marketing sector. You show that you're good. There's a face you show. So it does tie in one way or the other. But essentially, I think the culture of UBA Group is one of natural philanthropy, and that's the vision of the group chairman, Tulio Lunailu, who you quite know the extent to which he has shown his generosity.
Mais on sait quand même que les banquiers ne sont pas philanthropes, chairman. On sait que les banques en général elles ne font pas de la philanthropie. Comment est-ce qu'on devrait comprendre cela et pourquoi vouloir médiatiser donc cela? Parce que quand un don est fait de façon publique, il s'appelle plus vraiment don. Pourquoi ne l'avoir pas fait, je dirais, en bac, sous anonymat par exemple?
Well, I think the press that was present when this gift was given to the government of Cameroon at the Ministry of Public Health was called for by the government. It wasn't called for by us. I mean, of course, we like the media coverage. I'm sitting here also. STV did call me. I didn't ask to be interviewed by STV. I didn't set up the questions you're asking. I think when you do the right thing, people do recognize it. And I also think that it was in the interest of government to make noises around it, to encourage others to do the right thing. It all ties in. And I think it's not just companies, it goes also to the heart of Cameroonians, everyday people. We should start thinking about others, we should start thinking about our neighbors, and be our brother's keeper, or our sister's keeper, if you want to put it that way.
Alors, l'UBA fait partie de l'APECAM, l'association des professionnels des établissements du crédit du Cameroun, si je ne me trompe pas. Est-ce que vous avez pensé dans tout le groupe de faire un geste, ou c'est un projet, ou alors c'est pas encore à l'ordre du jour?
Well, if I get that question right, it's the gift that was actually made in cooperation with UBA Foundation. So UBA Cameroon and also UBA Foundation all came together to put together the package. And we haven't stopped there. I mean, in terms of things we've done, perhaps we don't make so much noise about it. We're in terms of, push and pull, transferring money to your mobile money account and so on. I mean, we've cancelled the charges. We're doing it basically for free. So there will be more actions in the coming weeks, and as it goes on, for those who don't know, UBA is basically #1 in digital banking. Our digital platform is extremely robust. It's something we've been working on. Not that we saw this coming, but we felt that really the future was in digital banking, and we had been building our platform. We are the first bank who have gone into artificial intelligence with the Mark Leo, which I guess you know about. So we basically have been trailblazers in the area of digital banking. And of course, in an environment where people have to stay home, sort of quarantine, the ability for you to carry out banking without physically going to the branch becomes a huge plus, and we like to see ourselves as providing service to the population. Yes, we are to make money, of course, but first, our push is really to be of service to the community.
Très bien. Votre banque étant digitale, je suppose que avec la situation actuelle du Covid-19 et de plus en plus on parle du télétravail, est-ce que ça veut dire que chez vous c'est déjà mis en place? Sinon, qu'est-ce qui est fait pour protéger et le personnel et les clients?
Well, it's something, I mean, it's work in progress. We have taken a lot of steps to make sure that our staff are well protected. We're keeping just non-essential staff at the moment and ensuring that people are working from home. Of course, in terms of our clients also, we want them to be able to carry out banking operations without necessarily coming to the bank. And we're pushing more and more to make them comfortable, to make it not more expensive for them to do their banking transactions while being at home. And this is really we think it's the future. I mean, of course, there are all these limitations which are there. We don't think even after COVID-19 is brought under control, all the measures which have been put in place now will go away. Some of them would stay on. For instance, our board meetings, we're just not more than 5 in the room, and the rest of the board members do dial in by video conferencing. And it does help. I mean, the board of UAB Cameroon does have several members who have to fly in from abroad for each board meeting. We do have board members in Yaoundé also who have to come in. There's a risk of transportation, moving people around. But now, in our last board meeting, we're able to carry it out with just myself and not more than 4 people with me in the boardroom. And we're able to transact affairs of the company through video conferencing, and even dealing with the auditors, we're able to certify the account and so on, linking to others who are to dial in through video conference. So it is really might be the next way you see a lot of business goes. You save in air tickets, air travel, you reduce risk. Even for insurance, there's less insurance exposure. I mean, traveling, accidents and so on. So I think it's something that we should look at it. It's happened, but let's look at the positive developments that will come out of it, in the sense that perhaps we're too busy moving around. Perhaps we spend too little time with family. I know even for myself, my wife has seen me more now than she's seen me for a very long time. So there are positive, things around the ability to stay home, work from home, and spend less time traveling around.
On espère qu'il n'y aura pas aussi, le chômage technique ne va pas être prolongé, parce que avec le digital, ça réduit aussi le personnel. Est-ce qu'on ne voudrait pas, si ça se poursuit, pas le Covid-19 bien sûr, si, je veux dire, la digitalisation générale ne va pas mettre des gens au chômage?
Well, I think this is what perhaps would have been said about the mobile telephone at the time. If it comes, it might affect, taxes, people will not travel as much. But I think what happens is redeployment, retraining, and people will do things differently. I don't think incomes would go down per se, but it might just mean that you could work and do more, and you'll be rated based on productivity, rather than just showing up in an office. I can tell you that in most cases, I know in most companies, there are people who spend a day at work, and 80% of the time they're on their WhatsApp messages, absolute zero productivity to the company, earning salaries for which they didn't work for. And whereas there are people, if they were graded on productivity, they could be at home and produce perhaps 60-70%, perhaps why not more, perhaps 120% what they were doing before. So there is the positive side of it, certainly.
Alors, parmi les mesures barrières édictées par le gouvernement, il y a le lavage des mains à l'eau et au savon. Que répondez-vous aux gens qui pensent que les 150 millions remis pouvaient aider à construire, par exemple, des forages et lancer une opération, un ménage, un morceau de savon, par exemple? Parce que ces personnes se disent, le Covid va passer, mais vos marques pourraient rester.
Yes, I've heard that a lot. And in fact, even within the bank, staff who said, well, why give it to government? We could give it directly to the people. But I think in this point, we're dealing with a government that it's in power. It does have public health policy. If it's not done in a coordinated fashion, then you have everyone moving here, the other banks doing what they're doing, other corporations doing what, but in a dispersed fashion. Whereas bringing it to the center, to the Ministry of Public Health, they are spending, this is what they do, they're spending a lot of time, they have a better dashboard and visibility of what's going on in Cameroon. I know everybody seems to have an idea, an opinion every day, even in the social media, messages flying all over the place. But the reality is that the view from the driver's seat is always different. And at leadership position, you'd find out that there's a lot of information that gets to the leader, which people are not aware of. And when those decisions are taken, they're taking basically for the best of everyone from a holistic view. And we felt that the Ministry of Public Health and the government of Cameroon will have a more holistic view of the problem and able to address it in a more coordinated fashion. We have some ideas, we suggest, we write, but ultimately I thought it was better, and I think people should come in solidarity to support this fund that has been set up and put this money in there. Of course, they should monitor it, but ideally, the best way to approach this problem is with a centralized control which has a holistic view, a bird's eye view of the public health sector.
Alors, les idées que vous avez ou alors que vous avez proposées au gouvernement, est-ce qu'elles rentrent dans les mesures qui ont déjà été prises? Est-ce que, selon vous, elles visent à, je dirais, améliorer la lutte pour la propagation, contre la propagation de la maladie?
Absolutely. We did give some ideas. We thought the fund or our contribution should be used towards acquisition of equipment required for the fight against COVID-19. We thought it should also help with support the staff, the health workers who are going around and doing a very difficult job. You imagine the risk for them and their families. And we thought also, in order to carry out a lot of this, and including medication, acquisition of medication and so on, funds are required. And, you know, this contribution we gave in the form of cash will be better served if the Ministry of Public Health decided on its allocation rather than us, the bank. We are in the business of money. We're not the business of public health.
Alors, est-ce que la pandémie du Covid-19, est-ce que ça fait peur aux banques? Est-ce qu'il y a à craindre pour l'avenir de la banque?
Of course. I mean, it's you could say almost a nightmare situation, in the sense that if the economy breaks down, then of course banks will be at the forefront of the hit. And it's something we're monitoring very closely. And also when panic sets in, you know, what happens if people start withdrawing their money from the banks and storing under their beds and stuff, what happens to the banking sector? So there are multidimensional risks to the financial services sector, banks especially, and we are monitoring it very closely. But we don't want to fear. Issue. I think fear in itself is another disease. So we're taking in a coordinated fashion and level-headed. And we, as a bank, we do have a very solid base, and we think we can weather the storm.
Alors, pour rester dans la banque, il y en a qui ont fait des crédits, certainement. Par exemple, pour le CHAN qui devait commencer le 4, il y en a qui vous ont fait des crédits. Est-ce que vous avez pensé à ces personnes-là? Comment est-ce qu'elles vont faire puisque le CHAN n'ayant plus lieu, elles ne sont pas rentrées dans leurs fonds? Qu'est-ce qui a été mis en place pour ces clients-là? Est-ce que ce sera des échéances en plus ou des intérêts baissés, par exemple? Je ne sais pas trop. Qu'est-ce qui a été mis en place?
I think it's something that cannot be done by one bank. It is something that should fall into government policy. And I think the powers that be are reflecting on that in consultation, of course, with the banks to see where is the room, where there could be opportunity for giving some sort of consideration to the public and given the circumstances we face. We know in other parts of the world there have been reduction in interest rates, there have been suspension on foreclosures of properties and so on. But we certainly, as a bank, we wouldn't go so unreasonably harsh in dealing with our customers in certain circumstances. And this is not just because of COVID-19 today, but if we actually did lend to a customer, or say in agriculture or whatever, if there were things which were extenuating circumstances, we would go down and try to see how to restructure and how to help the client, you know, stand up on their feet, because we're more interested in having the businesses alive and doing well, and we do well. If they do badly, we do badly. So it's not our interest just to kill the business at the first sight of trouble. We are there to support, even beyond COVID-19. But I think for the kind of wide-ranging policies to the population and restructuring to the business sector and so on, certainly it would have to come from public policy as given and perhaps initiated by
c'est d'abord, c'est en premier lieu vos clients. Avant d'atteindre le gouvernement, c'est d'abord vos clients. Est-ce que c'est le gouvernement qui devrait venir
Yes, but you have to also understand, I think perhaps the public a lot of times don't understand the business of banking. Not that that's something you should be understanding. You just want your money. But put yourself on the other side. You are a depositor. You have your deposits at the bank. If you came and you wanted to withdraw some of your money, and I say, oh, by the way, it's a very difficult time. We had to help somebody who came here. He couldn't breathe, and so we gave him some of your money. Can you come back tomorrow? No. You wouldn't listen to that, would you? So there are two sides of the story. We are basically custodians of people's money, and we are required to be responsible, and we have those fiduciary duties to take care of people's money. That's what we are.
Très important.
Yeah.
Alors, s'agissant toujours du fonds de solidarité, là maintenant, je m'adresse au vice-président de la Chambre de commerce.
Yeah, thank you.
Que prévoit la Chambre de commerce? Est-ce que c'est un projet? Est-ce que vous l'avez déjà fait? Concernant le fonds de solidarité nationale, est-ce que la Chambre de commerce a déjà je dirais, envoyer sa part ou c'est un projet?
It's a project. It's something we'll be addressing. Some could say we're slow, but it's something that's been reflected on and how it will be done. But again, it will also depend on individual companies. We ask the Chamber of Commerce. Yes, we are a kind of coordinating body, consensus building body, and we take the problems from the business enterprise sector and we try to deliver that information to government in a very clear and coordinated manner. And we also take government policy and government's points of view and also deliver it to the other direction. And I think really what happens here as a consensus building organization, certainly we'll be reaching out to our members and the entire enterprise sector to say, please, it all affects us. It's all about us. And we need to fix this thing and support government in its effort towards its fight against COVID-19. So certainly it's something in project, it's something we're working on very fast, and it would come soon.
Tout à l'heure, vous parliez de la digitalisation, du télétravail. Est-ce que c'est aussi, ça se voit aussi à la Chambre de commerce? Est-ce que ça se fait aussi?
Well, it's not. It's there, and as you know, today there's so many ways of video conferencing which can be done in a very simple format. It's not the old days where you had a very sophisticated video conferencing machinery. Today there are products like Zoom, just an app on your mobile phone which you can download, and the Skype, even WhatsApp itself does have a video conferencing facility if you have the right phone. So really the capacity to engage in that is there. One of the things, however, I have raised that issue quite recently to the higher authorities, is the question of the availability of data, high-speed data, and the cost of it. And I have also made it quite clear that I think that the usage of data, it's quadrupled, and it's just going to quadruple again. Today you have students who have to continue classes and are actually taking classes online. It's a huge amount of demand for data because of the requirement of video in order to communicate and do our various tasks. So really something would have to be done. And I think also that's something the Chamber of Commerce will be pushing to not only make sure that Camtel does have the capacity to provide this hugely increased demand for data, but also to consider the pricing structure to make sure that Cameroonians can get data at a much lower cost, because it's not just for entertainment now, it's actually a necessity. So it should be treated as a product of necessity.
Alors quels sont les secteurs d'activité à la Chambre de commerce qui sont les plus affectés par le Covid-19?
I think usually when things like this happen, the lower section of the economy, I mean, you know, they really take the beating. We as a chamber, for those who don't know, I mean, the General Assembly of the chamber has 160 members. The executive board of the chamber, those who effectively run the chamber, just have 12 members. And then you have, of course, the regional delegates in the 10 regions of the country. And what happens is that in this entire infrastructure of the chamber, we're just representatives of the enterprise sector, because you are a member of the Chamber of Commerce the minute you pay your business license.
Yes.
So there are hundreds of thousands of members because there are hundreds of thousands of businesses. But we are just, almost you could consider us that we are members of the assembly. We are representatives of the sector. And most of our members, unlike some of the other organizations which are out there, most of our members, majority, are small and medium-sized enterprises. These are small businesses who constitute the bulk of the enterprise sector and the business, the economy. And they include market women, traders, they include small businesses, small tradesmen, and they have suddenly, I mean, they're working day by day. They obviously operate their income and their businesses on a day-by-day living. So when something like this happens so suddenly, they don't have the capacity to weather the storm. And that's why it's of great concern to the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that something concrete, something real is done to support this weaker group of people, which is really the majority of the economy.
Est-ce que c'est déjà fait ou c'est un projet?
Well, it's ongoing. Discussions are being done. Of course, I think really one of the things also we try to say is that it's not to just rush into doing things. There has to be, a habit and a culture of planning. Spend more time planning and then you roll out, rather than just jumping and reacting to things that happen today and tomorrow. So we don't want to do that. We want to really take our time to come up with a consistent and well thought out policy and recommendation to the government as to what needs to be done to basically help. We can't completely solve the problem, but to help that weaker section of the economy, which happens to be the majority of the economy.
Alors, dans les marchés, tout à l'heure vous parliez vraiment des petits commerçants. Dans les marchés, on constate qu'il y a l'inflation des prix de certains produits de première nécessité. En face, il y a le ministère du Commerce qui ne veut pas l'augmentation des prix. Alors, vous, qu'est-ce que vous faites donc pour cela? C'est-à-dire, le citron, bon, on laisse le citron, le riz. Parce qu'il y a des commerçants qui disent que le riz, même celui qui n'avait pas vendu, vend maintenant cher. Celui qui ne se ravitaille plus au même prix. Alors, qu'est-ce que vous faites, vous qui êtes la passerelle entre le secteur informel et le gouvernement, qu'est-ce que vous faites pour cela en cette période?
Yes, of course, we are very concerned about that. And this is a situation of the middleman. Now, if oranges and mangoes and rice and all the other things go up in price, usually those who were actually the primary producers or who were at the lower end, wholesalers, it goes out and the trader comes in between and goes for usury profits, goes for extortion, that's what you call it. And extortion, in a sense, is a crime, and you know that. And I think what the Ministry of Commerce, or Ministry of Trade, as you'd say, in many areas, tries to do is to act as a regulator, to make sure that people are not taken advantage of, to make sure that the population in the market shouldn't be taken advantage of. Certainly, if the cost has certainly gone up, transportation costs has gone up, but there should be a reasonable add-on to the price, not just people who just rush, take everything, hoard it, and just increase the price. I noticed the other day, even with pharmaceuticals, when it was said that chloroquine is one of the cures for malaria, you couldn't find any drugs in the pharmacies. Some people grabbed it, took everything out, but it's natural human instinct. But I think really people will do their part. We also, at the level of the chamber, also I guess at the Ministry of Commerce, will do their part in trying to make sure that there's regulation to make sure that the market is not unduly exploited.
Il y a quand même parmi ces commerçants, il y a quand même ceux qui sont honnêtes, qui n'ont pas fait de la réserve pour augmenter le prix. Il y a quand même ceux qui avaient vendu, qui sont en manque, qui vont régulièrement pour acheter, mais du fait du Covid, les prix sont élevés. Est-ce que vous, la Chambre de commerce, vous ne pensez pas, par exemple, un plaidoyer, je ne sais pas, pour ces personnes-là? Parce qu'il y a toujours ceux qui payent les pots cassés des autres.
Yes, these are issues which, as you know, in terms of the chamber, in terms of our income, most of our income really comes from, subsidies from government. It's true we do own some rental property in terms of warehouses, and it's true we do get some revenue from the pattern, the business tax when it comes in, but that income is so much lower than our running cost. So effectively, the chamber, for many years, has simply been surviving, simply paying salaries for the administrative staff, and not being able to do such projects as you would want to suggest. But what we would obviously do is to use our advisory role, and be able to talk to government to make sure that if it is possible, what can be done to address some of the shortfalls. And it is the government itself that can do that. But it's something which is in our agenda, is something, one of the things we will be talking about, ways of addressing those imbalances.
Alors, la pandémie finira par passer. Connaissant la fragilité des PME, est-ce que vous avez mis en place, je ne sais pas si je dirais une stratégie, parce que les économistes sont formels, forcément il y aura des casses. Il y en a qui vont, il y a des PME qui vont mourir. Est-ce que vous les préparez déjà pour qu'ils commencent à envisager des portes de sortie, ou alors qu'est-ce que vous faites, sachant qu'il y aura des casses à la fin?
Tough one. If we knew the answer to that, really, perhaps we would not be here talking. I'll probably be somewhere in Switzerland having a good time with the bankers. But it is a difficult time in terms of the small businesses. It's always been the case that when you have such crisis, the weaker, those lower in the food chain, get kind of eaten up. But what saves the day is how you and I behave. It's how every citizen in Cameroon begin to be considerate about the other, the way we react. And government in itself can do all of that for us. We have to start thinking that we are the shareholders of Cameroon. And if you're a shareholder, you should care about the company. If you're a citizen of Cameroon, you should care about Cameroon. And this is the time when we Cameroonians should take the opportunity to go out of our way to take care of others and stop being selfish. Put others first. Even to say when you're putting on a mask, you're putting it on for not just for your self-protection, but ultimately to protect the other person. And it's an attitude, even in terms of cleanliness. If you go to use a bathroom, when you're coming out after using it, you clean it up, you prepare it for the next person coming, who you don't know, but you do it because out of love for neighbor. It is that instinct that during this time, we are praying that people would change this attitude of get it all, grab it and run. It's all for me first, me, myself, and I. This is a time when we can put truly the practice of caring for each other. It is an opportunity to put it in practice, and I hope that Cameroonians will look at it from that angle.
Alors, le gouvernement, pour lutter contre la propagation du virus, a mis en place 13 mesures. Est-ce que vous avez certains de vos membres qui se sont plaints de ces mesures-là?
Well,
est-ce qu'ils acceptent tous ces mesures-là sans...
Certainly not. I think there are many who are saying it didn't go far enough. and there are others who feel, government should come up with more in supporting the people. They feel, the reaction has been slow, and it's always the case. You can never really do enough, and truly. And I think also we, as Cameroonians, we should have the habit of also suggesting the government. I have to tell you myself, I do it. Some of the ministers know this. Every morning, they get messages from me. Sometimes I don't get a response, but I know they read it. So if I have an idea, I think it's good, I would share that idea. The authority doesn't have to take it, they don't have to accept it, but at least I said it. And I think...
Vous savez que moi je pourrais pas écrire, vous c'est parce que votre position, mais est-ce que le Ben Skinner qui se plaint, le chauffeur de moto-taxi, qui estime que parce qu'il va porter une seule personne, le carburant est élevé, est-ce que lui peut envoyer un message à l'autorité?
Interestingly, there is an association of Ben Skiners. So even to that level, the opportunity have been given for them in a coordinated fashion to express their views, and which they have. So the association can, if the association is there and the Besikiners themselves don't talk to the association, and you expect the leadership of the association to know it all, that's a mistake. They need to let their consent known. The association will obviously take it to the prefect and the governor. Prefect and the governor also in sending their reports to send us issues up. But I think in leadership, there's the assumption that the leader knows it all. We need to understand, and I know in my own limited areas of leadership, there's a lot which I don't know, and there's a lot which I found out over time which it was not asked of me, and if they had asked of me, I would have done it. I simply didn't know. I just have to be humble enough to say that. And so we shouldn't just assume that you cannot express yourself. And in this day of social media, it's incredible the barriers that have been broken down. It's just amazing that you can put out a message today and it will be everywhere. And believe me, the leaders do see those messages. So if you have a good idea, it will get out there. What should not happen is just complaining. If you're going to complain, come out with a suggestion. Don't just complain. Tell us what else could be done. At the level of the Chamber of Commerce, we also get a lot of attacks on those. Oh, what are you doing? And so on and so forth. But hey, we are there to represent the enterprise sector, the businesses and so on. And they are our members. And there's not very much information feeding through to us. We have to, in a sense, think about it all the time. Yes, that's what we are there for, that's what we're elected for, but we can't know everything. So we'd like to encourage people to send ideas. And you don't have to be insulting in sending an idea. It could be sent in a rational way and focus on the point rather than insulting. And I think no one here wants Cameroon to go down. We all want a better Cameroon, want prosperity and so on. And I think really this is a time for ideas to flow through.
Est-ce qu'on doit comprendre qu'il y a davantage de plaintes et d'insultes qui arrivent? Est-ce que finalement ça veut dire que ceux qui se plaignent, on se plaint trop et on insulte aussi? On est un peu injurieux. Est-ce que c'est ce que nous on doit comprendre?
Well, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of negative news. You in the media, you do know it, that bad news is good news. So bad news does travel fast and good news not so fast. So, but it all a question of attitude. And I think we can decide to change our attitudes and put it the other way around for good news to travel farther.
Effectivement. Alors, dans certains pays, on est dans le confinement général pour arrêter la propagation du virus. Ici au Cameroun, il y a quelques jours, la rumeur aussi courait qu'il pourrait avoir un confinement général. Déjà, est-ce que vous serez pour un confinement général face à cette pandémie?
Yes, I have to say I prefer, personally, this of course is a personal opinion, it's not the position of the bank or it's not the position of the Chamber of Commerce or any of the institutions I do represent. Me personally, I think I would go for a hard measure quickly and get it over with, rather than dragging a bad situation for so long, because empirical evidence has shown clearly that in areas of the world where very hard decisions were taken regarding confinement, the coronavirus has been actually checked faster in that form. So yes, you go through a quick lockdown, and after that it slows down the multiplication of the virus. And in that sense, I would not be ashamed to say I would prefer actually a lockdown. But of course, there are consequences to it. There are real consequences in terms of the economic consequences for a complete lockdown. But in the end, better be alive, and then you will build up the economy again. And so my advice would be not the entire nation, but I would say the areas,
les foyers,
Douala, Yaoundé, and Bafoussam. Yes, we need to contain the spread, definitely.
Alors, est-ce que vous avez envisagé dans les prévisions, vous à la Chambre de commerce cette fois-ci, est-ce que vous avez envisagé des stratégies si le nombre ne fait qu'aller croissant, si finalement on arrivait à un confinement, que ce soit général ou partiel quand même? Est-ce que vous avez envisagé des stratégies, vous, à la Chambre de commerce?
Well, yes. In terms, we are extremely concerned because generally, if you look at the population, the common man, in a sense, the traders, it doesn't seem, people talk the talk, but are not walking the walk, and you still see people touching each other, leaning on walls, and you know, business as usual. And that happens when a problem is not visible. Here is an invisible virus. You can't see it with your eyes, so you don't get scared. And it takes a higher form of thinking to get to a level where you can appreciate the actual danger. And I'm afraid the majority of the population naturally don't have that capacity to appreciate the clear and present danger we're facing. So they would react when they see somebody ill, and then soon after that they forget. I mean, some people used to tell me, just because there are accidents in the Douala-Yaoundé road, doesn't mean you don't go to Yaoundé. it's the same, you think it happens to others, it won't happen to you. Yeah, so somehow public policy has to step in and do correct that lack of seriousness, and I think which is something which needs to be taken more seriously. But for the level of the Chamber of Commerce, again, like I say, we do have arms, but it's not as long as it should be, and our only means is to transmit the information to the government and hope that there's timely reaction to it.
J'aimerais quand même avoir, si c'est possible, une des propositions peut-être que la Chambre de commerce a fait au gouvernement par rapport au volet économique, c'est-à-dire que après cette pandémie, on sera affecté économiquement. Quelles sont quelques propositions que vous, la Chambre de commerce, vous avez fait au gouvernement pour juguler cette, j'ai pas envie de dire crise économique qui aura lieu après le COVID-19?
It's work in progress. I mean, we are not going to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of information out there as to what other countries have done, what other countries have done, and what our other colleagues, chambers of other countries also have done, and so on. We're grabbing this information. Things are moving so fast and so dynamic, changing day by day. So you really have to just stay on it. And we want to come up, like I say, with a comprehensive plan, and policy paper, which we'll share with government as the position of the chamber. And we hope that when that is done, it will be taken seriously. But it is, in a nutshell, it is work in progress.
Alors, nous sommes en avril, le premier cas au Cameroun, c'était le 6 mars. Yeah. Donc cela fait à peu près un mois que le coronavirus est au Cameroun. Certains n'y croient pas jusqu'aujourd'hui. Yeah. Je voulais dire certains n'y croyaient pas, mais jusqu'aujourd'hui, certains n'y croient pas. Absolutely. Alors, vous, habitants de Douala, vous êtes beaucoup plus basé à Douala, quelle a été votre réaction lorsqu'on vous a dit le Covid-19 est au Cameroun?
I must admit, I didn't take it as seriously to start with. There was also a lot of rumors that it doesn't survive above 26, 27 degrees Celsius.
Il ne touche pas les Noirs.
It wouldn't touch us. And I remember also the temperature had gone up so much, and I was saying, oh, thank you, Lord, that you've increased the heat in Douala. So this is the automatic defense system you've put for us. And so there was that feeling initially, and you're not hearing the numbers. So we felt that, it's a disease out there, it's to do with cold countries, it's a flu, and it wouldn't attack us as much. But then suddenly the situation changed, and also the other hot countries were also facing huge increases in positive cases. And so we started taking insulin, and I have to admit, it's only normal. It takes, there's a lag, there's a reaction time to it. I mean, in my level of sophistication, obviously, if that can happen to me, you can imagine, this in the general population, what that time lag would be. We just have to get on with it. And you could see, some of the advertising that's going on. It's even in, tribal languages and so on, to make sure that the dissemination of information reaches all groups of and segments of the population. So I pray we'll get there sooner than later.
De façon globale, on va revenir sur les secteurs par la suite. De façon globale, quelle a été la réaction cette fois-ci de l'homme d'affaires que vous êtes? De façon globale, lorsque vous avez entendu le Covid-19 est au Cameroun. Vous êtes homme d'affaires.
Well, when it hit home, at our level, we started seeing how the economy will be totally affected. For many of the businessmen also, I mean, international news is all over the place. You can watch, the other news medias internationally, and you could see what was happening in the stock markets. You could see what was happening, the oil price. I mean, look at where the oil price is. And we could deduce from that already, just even for government funds, that the government of Cameroon would have great difficulty in terms of having the sort of revenue it's used to, coming from oil. And not just Cameroon, the other African countries and neighbors, and the entire sub-region. We are the motor in the Central Africa region. We are the engine here, and you can imagine that all the countries around us and amongst us rely heavily in hydrocarbons. And to have such pricing, in the world market, it spells a major disaster for the economy. It's what some people say the perfect storm. Too many dangerous things happen at one time. Coronavirus, the rumors of coronavirus, tumbling free fall of the oil prices, stock markets in total disaster. It couldn't be worse. And I think, in a sense, we in Africa, or maybe talking about Cameroon, I don't think we still understand the extent of the head-on winds coming towards the continent and, of course, ourselves. But we have been a resilient country. We have seen quite a lot of things happen here. Reduction of salaries at levels not seen ever in any parts of the world. We've seen other disasters, and we have come out standing, and I believe that we should have faith that it will pass, and we should also not go into a frenzy and panicking and attacking, and we should keep calm and stay home. The best support, we know that the best defense we can have is staying home. I know it's an expensive exercise staying home, it's a luxury for many, but we have to realize that that luxury is something we should all tap into.
Alors, vous êtes homme d'affaires, on a passé le volet global, on va y aller par secteur maintenant. Vous touchez un peu à tout, l'agriculture, l'industrie, l'immobilier, même la banque. Déjà, dans l'agriculture, comment est-ce que le Covid-19 vous affecte, vous?
It's been a difficult one. COVID-19 has come, particularly for Cameroon and the agri sector, at a time where we also had the Northwest, Southwest, the Anglophone crisis. And the plantations in the Southwest and, of course, the Northwest have basically been abandoned. And on my side, personally, I mean, we have Mukete Estates, which is Mukete Plantations, which is one of the large private-owned agro-industrials in Cameroon. The managing director has left. He lives in Douala and the plantations and Kumba and Banga and various areas in the southwest. So he cannot be there. Most people who had plantations, farmers, have had to stop working essentially. So before COVID came, there was already a terrible situation that those in agriculture had to deal with in the southwest and northwest. I mean, of course, in other parts of Cameroon, agriculture continues, but now they also have to face considerable difficulties in carrying on business. But we also have to be looking at alternatives in terms of the agri sector. The disaster comes, but it does also offer opportunities, and I think there are other types of crops which can be, which can be looked into by farmers. Land is land, and usually, if you can cultivate one, you can usually cultivate the other. So there is room for looking at that. But in terms of those who are already, who had their products to bring to market, it's been a disaster, basically. You can't get to the market, and what can you say? You have an accident, your car is gone, what do you say? So in terms of agriculture, it will need an enormous amount of support after things settle down. And I think before this happened, there was also a government policy on focusing on import substitution, and a key part of the import substitution drive was linked to the agri sector, fisheries, livestock and fishery, and growing of rice, cassava, and so on. And so there was a drive towards that to say, there will be special facilities given to encourage more production of that, not just for the Cameroon market, but also looking at the export market. So that has been there. Obviously, that would have to take double steps, and a lot more assistance will be required after COVID-19 is brought under control. There will have to be a focused amount of help coming, from the public sector to make sure that the infrastructure is provided. But in terms of other areas which you've mentioned, in terms of
l'immobilier, par exemple,
same thing. I mean, the rent's not being paid. Those in the hotel, the hospitality sector are facing enormous challenges. As you know, the hotels, apart from those who have been rented by government to keep those who are positive or those who are under quarantine, apart from that, there's no private business coming through. The hotels are empty. And there's huge amount of expenses there, huge losses. In terms of just normal real estate, offices and rented apartments and so on, of course, there's difficulty in people paying their rents and so on. So landlords are facing enormous challenges. In the area of
La banque?
The bank, yes, we are also, when the economy hurts, we automatically hurt because we cover across the economy. You do. When the economy does well, the banks do well. But we are taking this as a challenging time, and we are focusing on just keeping our heads above water, but also focusing on still being good corporate citizens. For many who do not know, we still carry on Read Africa initiative, which is really getting books out to students to encourage reading. We still do that. For those who do not know, while we give a support to Bakassi for those residents in Bakassi. We made a donation in the area to help them, start up businesses and to invest. We did give a donation in that area. So we continue to see, as a bank, our duty to address the philanthropic side of things. And of course, while making sure that the entire sector doesn't collapse, but we are cognizant on that fact, and the important thing is to survive through this period. And for the other sectors of the economy, industry, the same story. Getting ships in, flights are not coming in. I mean, what can you say? It's a perfect storm. It's a meltdown. And really, in such times, is to first of all save your neck, stay home, stay calm, and let the wild winds go past. And there will be sunshine after this, and we just have to stay alive.
Mais est-ce que avec le nombre de cas contaminés qui va croissant, puisque vous nous demandez d'être calme, je suis d'accord, on doit être calme, mais lorsqu'on se rend compte que les habitudes n'ont pas vraiment changé, les gens n'ont pas encore vraiment pris l'ampleur de ce qui se passe, peut-être parce que on n'a pas encore été affecté personnellement. Est-ce qu'il ne faut pas plutôt être dur? Est-ce qu'il ne faut pas dire aux gens de façon crue, j'ai envie de dire, ce qui se passe?
Absolutely. I think, for those in the social media who have access to this, which is most people, you could see what has happened in other parts of the world. Not so much Western Europe, but if you look at China, you look at India, where 1.3 billion people had to be shut down. And of course, you could see the reaction of the Indian government. It was stern. I mean, they had canes and,
la population
whipping people who were, yes.
Certains font la marche canard, ils sont punis.
Of course. So, and, in an environment like this, you have to understand that you might have to revert to such practices, which perhaps you could call it human rights abuse. But in a sense, if people are putting others at risk, then you need to take measures which address the situation of the time. This is not the time for niceties. This is not the time to be trying to impress others that you're keeping to a certain regime, to be politically correct. This is a time to save lives. And I think there has to be a move to use very hard measures to make sure that those who do not want to listen to the talk, then some action has to be taken, that physical pressure needs to be used. And we need to do that to stop this disease. It's not dealing with a particular section of the population. You could see the types of people who have been affected: leaders, prime ministers, kings and princes, and champions of industry, and film stars, entertainers. So it doesn't discriminate. It affects us all, and the behavior of someone else would affect someone else. So where your freedom ends, somebody else's liberty begins, and the other way around. And so I really think we should drive home this point. I'm saying it here because I'm private sector, and perhaps if a government minister said it, they'll say, there again, they are talking. But I think coming from me, from the private sector, it shows the sensitivity, the importance, and the urgency for people to realize that this is not a joke. It's here and now, and it does kill. Coronavirus does kill. And what we are seeing, the situation can change drastically overnight. If countries with good healthcare systems, sophisticated public services are actually being brought to the ground, what do you think would happen to an economy and an environment just as ours? We don't have that level of capacity. We have to be honest about it. And even if an enormous amount of testing is done and so on, and when you get all these cases, what are you going to do with them? So it is a a public catastrophe, if I could say so. It is a public catastrophe waiting to happen. It's already is there, but we need to stem it by changing attitudes, and it must be driven home across all board because everyone is affected.
Il y en a qui pensent que le confinement, quand on parle de confinement général par exemple, ils disent nous vivons au jour le jour, qu'est-ce qu'on va manger? Les commerçants disent qu'est-ce qu'on va vendre et on va faire comment? Les transporteurs disent si on ne porte pas de passagers, qu'est-ce qu'on ramène à la maison?
It is the reality. We have to take that into consideration, but also we don't want people to die. If you're dead, you'll not be doing any transportation.
Voilà.
So, but we have to seriously also, as a people, try to see what can be done also to address those aspects. I mean, we'll talk about social distancing. We've kept our social distance here, you know, and nice studio, it's been sanitized and so on. You have the capacity to do that. But for many other people, the question of social distancing is a luxury. They probably leave 5 people in a small room, a small house, because that's all they can afford. So what do you do? It is a most disturbing scenario, but it shouldn't hold us back from doing what is right. And what is right is people containing and staying home. Number one effective measure, containing and staying home, to stem the spread of the disease.
Alors vous êtes depuis peu le chef suprême des Bafo. Félicitations.
Thank you very much.
Alors, quels sont les chantiers prioritaires que le chef entrevoit, va attaquer ou a déjà attaqué? Quels sont vos chantiers prioritaires?
Ah, interesting. And I'm wearing a Western suit and I'm not in the traditional regalia, so I didn't come quite prepared to talk about it. But anyway, yes, it was a surprise for me, the new fund of Kumba and paramount ruler of the Bafo, handed to me by my father and the notables of the kingmakers of the tribe. And I have to kind of learn. It's new. Sometimes I wake up and I forgot that this is the huge responsibility that has been on me. But I think those who, you know, my father selecting me must have seen something in me, having the capacity to do this. And also friends and well-wishers have said so much that they think I have the capacity to be a successful chief. But I am a modern chief in a sense, a modern fun, and I see things from kind of a different perspective to some extent. And I'd like to empower the people. I think the poverty levels and in the villages, and I think the level of impoverishment which has been allowed, that we've taken to be normal and acceptable, really in my reign, I just find it's not acceptable. And we'll be working on together with members of the tribe, the elite and so on, to come up with not just written policies, but effective action, which would look to addressing those issues on things like cooperatives and you know, local support systems for the farmers and funds for education for those children who don't have as much means but need to be trained, vocational training, all the usual things. You know, the tribe is a community. It's almost like a small country. So it has also its challenges and also opportunities for bringing change. But ultimately, I believe that with the kind of feedback I'm getting so far, the level of support I'm getting so far from my people, I'm very optimistic that there will be a positive change to the Bafo.
Alors, j'imagine que pour que tout cela se passe bien, il faut déjà que la crise qui sévit dans les régions du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest soit passée. J'imagine aussi que vous allez apporter votre pierre à la résolution de cette crise. Alors, on a beaucoup entendu, il faut dialoguer, mais dialoguer avec qui? Est-ce que vous serez le médiateur, par exemple?
Well, I think in my capacity, the crown has been put on me. Uneasy lies a head that carries a crown, evidently. So I am forced to play that role. I am forced to mediate, whether I like it or not, because clearly in the area, you've got the two sides of the fence, and it is my duty to try to reach out and put forward a convincing argument why peace is necessary for us all to prosper. Without peace, there's nothing we can do that can be really prosperous. And I think mistakes have been made, and mistakes will be made. We're all human beings, but ultimately, I think also there's a sense of fatigue of what's going on, and I think people are a lot more open to talk and dialogue in a different fashion, not just on cinema, but in real opening up to find a solution. And I think perhaps I'm coming in at a time when maybe my new face, a new generation, would give the opportunity for others to listen to me on the quest for peace. But I'm running on a peace ticket. I believe in forgiveness. I am a practicing Christian. I live by faith. And I believe, and this is what my father handed to me. For those who watch some of the videos circulating in the social media, you could see that he handed me the Bible, and my reaction was kissing the Bible, because this is the strength, is the foundation on which I stand. And some would say, well, but that doesn't go with the culture. But it actually, in our tribe, it actually goes with the culture. My grandfather, Chief Abel Mukete, being head of the Juju Society, actually walked out and followed Jesus Christ. He did it openly and was baptized in public in what you call the Kumba water. He did it openly. In fact, the priest at the time said to him, the German priest, he said to him that we can do it in your palace quietly. You can be baptized, or you don't. He said, no, I want to do it in public. And when he did that, he was declared dead by the Juju Society, so he was sold out. But he stood there, and interestingly, everybody else died over time, and he lived the longest. And the last old man came back and said, by the way, this is your God, like that. Please, I want to learn some of it. And that is what he handed. So by the time, obviously, my father was coming into play, into that seat, this is what his father handed over to him. And he told me that if there were other things behind it, he would tell me. But this is what his father handed over in Christ. And this is what I'm running on. I mean, I know there are people perhaps in the tribe who wouldn't like that, to say, oh, tradition. But what exactly is tradition?
Alors, nous sommes des Africains. Nous sommes bantous. En général, le successeur arrive à la mort du père. Est-ce que vous ne comprenez pas aussi la réticence à accepter cela? Que dit la culture? Est-ce qu'elle a été respectée, la tradition, je veux dire? Est-ce qu'elle a été respectée? Est-ce que le père de son vivant doit choisir son successeur, j'allais dire en mondovision? Est-ce qu'il a peur qu'à sa mort, la succession ne soit pas respectée? Expliquez-nous, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé?
I think the general feeling that's the excellent thing. In fact, that's what should be done more. In a situation of getting a clean succession, it is much better to do it in your lifetime, where you can answer the questions, you can make it very clear for people to understand what your wish is. Because if you don't do that, eventually there are always arguments that come up. Oh, it's an old man, he was not in his right frame of mind, he was manipulated and so on. So those things come up. And we've seen in some of the other kingdoms, of say in Boya, we've seen what happened in Limbe, and the Chief Manga Williams was a very powerful chief. The same thing in Boya with the Endelis and so on, and across in Moyuka and some of you would find out one of the greatest problems that has hit a lot of tribes is the issue of succession. And now you have to ask yourself, what tradition should you go with? Should you look at things in a way which is much more workable, which would ensure the sustainability of your people, or you keep practicing things which are derogatory and destructive to your people? I'll give you an example. If you're in some tribe, I mean some of the Indian tribes, for instance, okay, where you can marry your sister, say. Now, if you continue, you know, biologically, if you're marrying, if family is marrying family, the family gets wiped out, gets weaker and gets destroyed. So if your tradition says that's what you should do, are you going to continue that tradition? If information reached you that biologically this is wrong and it will destroy your people, would you continue that tradition? So I think really a tradition, it's there, fine. There's a cultural side of things, the dance, you know, certain habits and things were done in a certain way. Just because you must shake somebody's hand. Now there's COVID-19. Would you say, oh, well, I'm not shaking the, you know, I must shake the hand? No, you wouldn't, because the circumstances have changed. And I think that's what we must be cognizant of. We should be realistic. What people want is a better life. What people want is they want to prosper. They want to be happy. If the leader can give them that, even there might be some reluctance initially, but if their life gets better, they'll follow through. But I have to say, this is something I've thought about considerably over time. In my faith, I hold on to it. I have seen it, and this is what I've operated on. And I ask sometimes, you know, these debates come on, well, don't mix politics with religion. It's nonsense. The question is, when the President of the Republic is voted in by universal suffrage, you go to the ballot, and you vote. And he's declared winner by the ballot box. Why does he just declare himself president at that point? Why must he go to Parliament, go for the investiture? He talks. And then why must he take that Bible and take an oath to the Almighty God that he would respect the Constitution and he would rule his people fairly and justly? Who is he taking that oath to? Has anyone stood up to say, oh, by the way, why is the president taking that oath? Who is he taking it to? Don't mix. Nobody says that. And it goes across many nations. And I say this all the time. I say it, you know, I've said it in the European Union before. It's foolhardy to turn around. On the one hand, the US government has a huge investiture. The president sits there, he takes an oath, and France and Great Britain, everywhere they do that. And people just think, oh, well, it's just cinema. No, it's not. It has a particular importance. It's you're submitting yourself to your creator. And I think, for me, that's my faith. If I do badly during my reign, let me be judged by that. But if I do well during my reign, and the Bafo people prosper during my reign, they are going, and their children are going to hold on to the faith in Jesus Christ. And this is where I stand, and I'm totally, solidly standing on that position. I say this openly. I am also an honorary consul in a Muslim nation, essentially. But this is where I stand. And it's respected. And I found out that even amongst the various religions and so on, the other religions would respect you if you're a man of faith. Because if they feel that you respect God and you don't think that you are a God yourself, they'll respect you. They won't go into the details. They will respect you. And I think that we can all live together in harmony, respecting each other's faith. We can do it. And whoever's faith is positive and runs properly, people will hold on to it. Yes, so that's my stand. And it makes it easier for me when my father handed over to me and told me that this is the foundation in which this tribe stands. So I don't have to decree it. I don't have to start teaching people. This is what I received, so this is what I will continue with.
Mais à côté de la Bible, de la foi, vous comprenez que les gens ont du mal à accepter cela. C'est notre, j'ai failli dire notre culture. J'ai failli dire notre religion. C'est notre culture, tout comme en France ou aux États-Unis. Ils ont la leur. Ils ont leur culture. Mais nous, en Afrique, au Cameroun, on a notre culture. Donc, on pourrait peut-être avoir un notaire pour rédiger le testament de votre père.
Oui.
Encore que je l'ai vu très solide dans la vidéo. Vous avez eu du mal à arracher le pouvoir parce que lui tenait fort son bâton. Donc, il pouvait encore rencontrer un notaire pour rédiger ces dernières... Est-ce que vous comprenez cela? Que des gens estiment que non, ça n'a pas été fait comme il se doit.
No, wrong. There's nothing in the tradition which says he couldn't do that.
Okay.
What happened is, he met the kingmakers. He told them what he felt his choice was. They had no objection. When he now met the General Assembly of the Ngwa Bafo, this is the entire 10 villages who form the Bafo. Mm-hmm. When he told them what he was going to do, in fact, he was just going to make me just a representative. But when they said there could not be two chiefs, it's either he is there or he's not there. And he said, okay, in that case, at my age and my ability to serve you robustly and in the best fashion, I think my son will do it better because he's younger and he has the energy at this very difficult time to take forward the stool in a more secure manner. So that was it. And I think there was nothing against the tradition which said he couldn't do that.
Okay.
At least in our tradition. He just had to have the support of the General Assembly of the tribe and also the kingmakers, and that was accepted, and this is what he did. And incidentally, he has gotten a lot of support across board of people saying that is the format to follow. Not only for a chief, but even for yes.
C'est une leçon pour les autres pour dire aux vieux passer la main.
Absolutely, because then you stop the fight. When you go to a funeral, for instance, where there's no money, there's peace, there's love, and people talk to each other. Family who have not talked before start talking, and because they have to come together because there's no money. But whenever there's money, people start fighting before the person is buried. Right in front of his casket, the fight starts. So I think really, even for us, in terms of how we're carrying on our affairs, the effects, we are international today. They're almost borderless. If you look at it, with the internet, you could be tapping into the New York Library. You could be tapping into libraries in France and Paris, in Germany, Bonn. You could easily do that with the internet. There's no, even in business, you could become an international business just from your garage. I mean, if somebody was selling masks in Kumba, Bafo masks and so on, or beads and things, he can easily sell that bead in Australia. He only just has to come here, put it in DHL and any courier service for FedEx, and we'll be able to deliver it to somebody in Perth. So already it's an international business. This is what the world, and they can communicate trade based on the internet. So we are all linked in a sense. But one thing which is obviously quite pertinent, which I think we should as Africans reflect on. Many of us young people are living here and going over to Europe and to America. They want to, of course, for economic reasons. So it tells us that as a people, if life is better somewhere else, people will go there, right? Mm-hmm. And therefore, people will not stop back and say, the Russians do things this way, or the Germans do things this way, or their tradition is that. No. If they see people in Russia prospering, If they see people prospering in the US and Germany and America, they would go there because they want prosperity. It's the same thing locally. If people want in an area, a community, and that community prospers because of certain habits, then they would be happy, and even more people from other communities are going to come in. So there is something to be said to that. And if I might add, I have taken empirical evidence. I go by evidence a lot of times. And I look at the United States of America. Holds on to the Almighty God and became the #1 nation in the world. It's no secret. Everybody wanted to go to America, no matter the culture, they went. But that culture, that America, held on to Jesus Christ and said it, put in its money and everything. Germany lost the war, 1945. Perhaps you might not know this. The German government does pay men of God, preachers, from the state. If you are working in Germany, you are filling your form as your employment form, you put there your faith, where you worship. That government recognized the power of Jesus Christ. Okay, you could say it's a Christian democratic movement. But the fact of the matter is that it became the richest nation in Europe. Is it possible that you lose the war and 10 years later you're the richest? Is it? And so we're going, Australia, we're looking at all these examples of nations which honor God, and those nations have prospered. Okay, you could say, well, China has done so well and this and that, you could say that. But yes, the question also is discipline. If you don't have the discipline, you don't put into place certain aspects, then you don't prosper as much. But I mean, coming back to my people, you know, I'm just looking at it and saying, this is what has made me prosper. So I want to share it with them. I believe it would work, and I believe that I am starting in a tribe which already has that built in its culture. It's when I move into a hall with my people, already they open the deliberations with prayers in traditional language. That's what they do. I didn't do it. I met it there. So it's already built in, and I'm thankful that this is what I met, and this is what I intend to continue with. And I believe that it's the right path and the right way to go. I'm 100% convinced.
On ne peut que vous souhaiter bon vent.
Thank you.
Alors, on va parler, j'ai failli dire, on va aller dans une autre chefferie, mais maintenant je m'adresse au consul de Turquie. Alors, comment se portent les ressortissants turcs au Cameroun? Déjà, combien sont-ils à peu près?
Oh, it's a growing population, but there's a lot of also turnaround. People who just come. As you know, Turkish Airlines does fly a daily flight to Douala and to Yaoundé also, and so business people come and go quite frequently. But there is, of course, a local Turkish business community here in Douala and Yaoundé. Not huge numbers, but enough to make a difference. I feel so privileged to be the honorary consul of the Republic of Turkey here in Cameroon, resident in Douala. There is an embassy in Yaoundé, as you know. The ambassador is based in Yaoundé. I am based in Douala because I have to follow commercial matters and so on. But there's been a lot of engagement, there's a lot of interest from Turkey to Cameroon and vice versa. And I think the Turkish-Cameroon relationship is quite up there. You could see some of the great brands, what we've been able to do in Cameroon, the Japuma Stadium. You could see that's yet again the Turkish company that built that.
Yes.
It is a masterpiece, as you can see. And across that also financing, 85% of the financing came from the Turkish Exim Bank. But at the level of also banking, UBA, Cameroon, provided the guarantees for that to happen. So you could see the synergy.
Ça se voit très bien.
Yes. But we have Turkish companies in road construction also that UBA is supporting considerably. We have Turkish companies. Turkish companies are strong in construction. So there's a lot of presence. You probably don't see it. A lot of things, even that come from Dubai, actually are Turkish produced goods in terms of the food and beverages and so on, biscuits and things. So Turkey is very strong. And there is a lot of similarities between Turkey and Cameroon in a sense that people don't realize it. Ankara, the distance between Ankara and Istanbul is quite similar between Douala and Yaoundé. So you could see Yaoundé has many hills, Ankara has many hills. In terms of oil production, here in Cameroon we're surrounded by many heavy oil producers, and our production, I think it's just 70,000 barrels per day. It's very similar with Turkey. Turkey is surrounded by Iraq, Iran, and it's all just with major oil producers, right? And Turkey actually produces just as much oil as just Cameroon, about the 70,000 barrel range. And you ask yourself, how is that possible? Turkey has been able to establish itself as a distribution point for gas and hydrocarbons, taking advantage of its efficiency. And that has made Istanbul really a very strong financial capital. And we feel very strongly that the model that Turkey has followed can be followed here also in Cameroon. Yes, we're quite similar in that, and I think naturally you would see that the relations between Turkey and Cameroon, it's going up and up and up, and it's just natural, and it will just go higher.
Et avec cette pandémie, est-ce que certains ils sont restés, ils ont voulu partir? Comment ça s'est passé?
Quite a few have stayed on. Well, of course, we had to bring a special flight to check out some of the Turkish people who had to return. Some of them are crew members, others were those working in oil companies offshore and so on. But generally, in terms of the business Turkish community, they have actually stayed put. Okay. They were not evacuated, and it showed that, the commitment.
Ils se sentent bien chez nous.
They are very comfortable here.
Alors, dans les relations bilatérales entre le Cameroun et la Turquie, est-ce que dans le cadre de cette pandémie, la Turquie a pensé à faire quelque chose pour son partenaire qui se retrouve quand même dans des difficultés?
Of course. In terms of what we call TICA, which is a Turkish Development Agency, we've given some gifts in terms of masks, protective clothing, and some medication cleaners, sanitizers, just basic support elements. So those gifts have been given. But as you know, dealing with diplomatic relations, a lot of times, as a matter of respect, you just don't jump into another man's land and start being almost patronizing, almost, yes. If they ask for it,
you can do.
Yes, the Turkish government is favorably disposed to engage in supporting the government of Cameroon in areas where help is asked. But the government of Turkey cannot just impose itself let the government of Cameroon ask what sort of support it might need and so on. And I think that will be favorably considered. Of course, these are diplomatic issues, but there is mutual respect. And it's very important that the Cameroonian people do understand that the Turkish people are very, very supportive of Cameroon, and we see this relationship as a long-term win-win relationship.
Mais quels sont les secteurs, on les a vus, comme vous l'avez dit tout à l'heure, dans le BTP avec le stade du Japoma, quels sont les autres secteurs dans lesquels la Turquie excelle et nous apporte son expertise?
Agriculture, and we've been pushing that, and livestock farming and also fishing. Talking about agriculture in general, in Turkey sometimes farmers have to go a meter deep and more to actually turn the soil around to get fertile soil. Here in Cameroon, it's just there. So people have to work a lot harder to produce what is produced in Turkey. So Cameroon really it's a perfect partner in the agri sector in some of these techniques. And of course, mechanization has been used significantly in Turkey. We still, I don't know what is happening, but again, the uptake of best practices seems to be very slow in Cameroon, one way or the other, because we don't even use farm animals. But farm animals have been used in Turkey and other parts of Europe and the developing world for years. It's kind of strange that you walk into certain areas in the hinterland and you still see old women carrying firewood on their backs when farm animals could have been used. So the uptake of technology, even any mechanical advantage that could have come, it's not been taken as much. And I think that's an area where Turkey, of course, can bring its skills. And its teams have come here to see various areas where there could be cooperation to help show the sort of mechanization that Turkey has done, which Cameroon can benefit from. And I think there are other areas which are quite huge. The other day was someone who came in from Turkey to train Cameroonians on honey. And I remember spending about about an hour.
Il y a le textile aussi, la couture, ils sont...
Absolutely. But those are, textile is massive. But it's also worth, remembering that there's quite a lot of investment in it and so on. But there are some small areas which can be useful to small farmers, to give them a fantastic livelihood, like just honey. I mean, bees moving around, harvesting the honey. And I was told that the test that was done in Cameroon for honey, the quality was so high. I mean, the gentleman who came, the specialist who came from Turkey, said he hasn't seen anything like it. That this is supreme quality and that it could actually be an area where Cameroonians, could go into. So, but there are many other things, of course, rice production. There's also fishing, the areas of industrial fishing, offshore fishing, marine offshore fishing. Turkey is very strong in it, fishing in cages. And these are areas where, of course, cooperation could take place. And the Turkish government is extremely gung-ho about its cooperation with Cameroon. And ultimately, we also have what is called the Cameroon-Turkish Business Council, which I happen to be a president of that also. But the Business Council, essentially, is the platform which would allow Cameroonian businessmen and Turkish businessmen to really cooperate in areas of interest. And we're trying to develop that to focus on the areas on low-hanging fruits to make sure that that's encouraged. But in a sense, we must push. We Cameroonians, we must know what we want. People can't come from outside to tell you what to do. You must know what's your priority and push for that priority. And I can tell you for sure that Turkey, the government of Turkey, is very ready to cooperate with Cameroon in so many different areas of interest, and the feeling is very clear that it's nothing to do with exploitation. It's a question of a win-win relationship.
J'ai envie de vous demander, avant de sortir de cette émission, comment est-ce que vous faites pour être le consul de Turquie, l'homme d'affaires, le chef des bas-forts, le vice-président de la Chambre de commerce, avant d'être le mari de votre femme et le père de vos enfants? Comment est-ce que vous faites tout cela?
Well, it's by the grace of God, the grace of Almighty God. I don't feel it. To tell you the truth, I'm able to sit, in a lot of boards on top of that, here and abroad. And sometimes people ask me that, but I don't even notice it. It tends to, my agenda tends to fit in quite automatically. And I think it's just divine favor. And I think we, generally as human beings, we do work on a fraction of our capacity. And if we can push ourselves a lot more, I can say straight out with confidence that each one of us, we're working at less than 50% of our capacity. So there's plenty of room there for each of us to do a lot more.
Chief Ekoko MUKETE, nous sommes arrivés au terme de notre émission. Merci d'avoir pris quelques minutes de votre précieux temps pour nous accorder cet entretien.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure kind of coming home to STV, and I see much has been done, and you continue to break new grounds.
Merci beaucoup.
Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Mesdames et messieurs, merci à vous d'avoir été des nôtres. À jeudi prochain.